Hi everybody, welcome back to online learning. Let's get started with a lesson on adjectives. All right, before we get started, let's talk about a few reminders. Let me move this around. Let's talk about a few reminders. Remember that math and reading lessons are posted every Monday and Thursday, and you are expected to do 4 lessons on Monday, so 2 reading lessons and 2 math lessons, and then 4 lessons on Thursday, 2 reading lessons and 2 math lessons. So as a total per week, you should be doing 8 lessons from me, Mr. Jones, Miss Shrammy, and Miss Satchel, and sometimes Mr. Matthews and Miss Beard and Miss Song if they post them. Also, since today is Thursday, both reading and math responses or problem sets or answers or whatever you had to turn in are due tomorrow. So if you're a little behind with that, you need to make sure that you're watching those videos today and you're submitting all of your responses by tomorrow, which is Friday. And then the last reminder is to tell your friends to watch and respond to the videos too, because we're doing some really awesome lessons, and you guys should be learning while you're out. So make sure you tell your friends on TikTok or on Snapchat or however you communicate with your friends. Make sure you are telling them to do this as well. All right, so let's talk about our competition. So I had a little competition for all of the students from all of our classes, and our competition winners from Monday were Emily G from Mr. Matthews and Mr. Jones class, Yahaira, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Mr. Matthews and Mr. Jones class, and then Suhei from Miss Coatney and my class. So good job with submitting your note catchers on time. And then make sure that you, for next week, if you like to be shouted out in one of our videos, make sure you submit your note catcher to me on the number that I list in order to get a shout out for next week. So great job to those 3 people for being the first 3 to submit their note catcher. All right. So let's talk about materials. So these are going to be the same materials. If you watch my other lesson, you're going to need a piece of paper lined or blank. Honestly, some of you guys are having trouble with finding a piece of paper. Look in your backpack. We send a lot of books home with you. It does not have to be like a completely blank piece of paper. You just need something to write on. It could be a receipt paper from your parents. It could be the back of your math notebook, just something that you can write on. You also need a pencil. And then, of course, you need a cell phone to submit your responses. And then once you have that piece of paper, you need to go ahead and label your piece of paper just like I have labeled mine here, because as we go through this lesson, you're going to take notes and you're going to be answering quizzes and an exit ticket that you will need to take a picture of and submit at the end of this lesson. So make sure you go ahead and pause this video, gather all your materials, and label your note catcher just like I have here, and then move forward with the video. All right, for your do now today, you are going to be answering this question: which nouns are proper nouns? And you're also going to be explaining your thinking. So your options are city, school, Memphis, and Kevin. So remind yourself, what is a proper noun? If you need to take out your notes from the last video, please do so. And then after you answer this question, you need to write a sentence. I know that blank and blank are proper nouns because, so answer that sentence. So make sure you stop the video, answer the question, and then move on. All right, so for today, last week we talked about proper nouns. We talked about how nouns are people, places, things, or idea, and proper nouns are the specific versions of those nouns. This week, or today, we're going to be talking about adjectives. So for your 2 learning targets today, you are going to identify adjectives, and you are also going to use adjectives in a sentence. All right, so let's talk about what are adjectives exactly. So adjectives are words that describe nouns. And there are a few different ways that we can describe nouns. We can describe their color, their size, their texture. So texture is, what does this object feel like? What is it made of? So this picture shows different types of textures. So there's a brick texture, there's a straw texture, like mud, wood. What does it feel like? You can also describe an object's shape. You can describe its condition. What's its state? Is it new? Is it used? Is it old? Is it crumpled? What state is it in? And then you can also describe its function. What does it do? So let's take, for example, this mask that we see here. We've been seeing a lot of these masks because they're used a lot during this time, during the coronavirus. So let's come up with some adjectives to describe this mask. So for color, I would say this is a blue mask. For size, it's fairly small compared to other things. Its texture, it's soft. You could also say it feels like cotton. Its shape is, you can't really tell from the picture, but it's a rectangular shape. And then its condition is, it's a new one. Hopefully it's new because you shouldn't be using old mask. Always throw your mask away. And then its function, what does this mask actually do? So as we know, this mask, it protects us from the germs from the coronavirus germs. So another word for protects is protective. So protective is the adjective form of the word protect. So we can use all of these adjectives to describe this one object. So let's look at how we can put this in a sentence. So my sentence, using some of the adjectives we just talked about, is this new blue mask is protective. So my adjectives are new, blue, and protective. All right. So here is your quiz for the first slide. So knowing that adjectives are words that describe nouns, you are going to describe your homeroom teacher, and you're going to be nice when you describe your homeroom teacher using some adjectives. So my example, if I were describing Miss Beard, ooh, it is not pulling up, okay. If I'm describing Miss Beard, I'm going to say Miss Beard is tall, funny, and hardworking, and my adjectives are tall, funny, and hardworking. So make sure that you are describing your homeroom teachers in a very nice way and not a mean way. So make sure you pause the video and do the quiz. All right. So now we're going to talk about how we can identify adjectives in sentences. So in order to do that, we have some steps here. First, you are going to identify your nouns because, as we have talked about, adjectives are words that describe nouns. So we need to know what our nouns are first before we can find our adjectives. And then we need to look for words that describe the nouns. So let's take, for example, this first sentence. If it'll pull up. All right, coronavirus is a flu-like illness. So I actually have two nouns in this sentence, coronavirus, and then I also have illness because both of these words are things. But I'm actually going to be talking about this word illness right here. So I'm going to talk about the word illness. So illness is my noun. So now I need to look through my sentence and I need to decide what word is describing that noun. So this one's pretty easy. What kind of illness is it? It's a flu-like illness. So flu-like is actually going to be my adjective, which is describing this noun. So that one was a pretty easy one. So let's look at a different one. All right, they warned that cloth masks might not work. So I'm going to look and see. I have a pronoun, they is a pronoun, but that's not the noun that I want to use. The only noun that I see in this sentence is the noun mask, because we talked about mask is a noun. Now I need to find a word that describes the word mask. So the only other word that I see that would describe it, it's describing its texture, is the word cloth. So cloth is kind of like your clothing. It's describing the texture and what it's made out of. So cloth would actually be my adjective that's describing the masks. All right, let's move on. All right, here's your quiz for slide 2. You're going to identify the adjectives in the following two sentences. So your first sentence is, let me move this out of the way. Brave and hardworking doctors are treating sick patients. And then number 2 says a young patient felt cold and scared. So remember, when you're identifying the nouns, are identifying the adjectives, you're first going to identify your noun or nouns. There could be more than one noun in these sentences. And then for each noun, you're going to describe a word, or you're going to find a word that describes that specific noun. So pause the video and answer your slide 2 quiz. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is where do we place adjectives when we write? So the first place that we can put adjectives is before a noun. So let's look at this sentence. Coronavirus is a flu-like illness. So we know that illness is our noun, and we can place our adjective before our noun. So I'm going to change the color. And flu-like is our adjective, which is placed before the noun. And then let's look at this next sentence. We can also place an adjective after a noun and a verb. So for example, people feel nervous and scared about the coronavirus. So in this example, we have our noun is the first word in our sentence, and then we also have a verb, and then we have 2 adjectives that are describing how these people are feeling. We have the word nervous, that's an adjective, and then we have scared. But the important thing is that these adjectives actually came after our noun and after the verb. There you go. I'm really bad at drawing these, but I hope you guys get the picture. All right. So let's review. So first, like we talked about in the beginning, adjectives are words that describe nouns. So take a moment, remember what is a noun. A noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. And then if we want to describe an object, we can describe its color, its size, its texture. Remember, texture, it's what does it feel like? What is it made out of? Its shape, its condition. Is it new? Is it old? Is it crumpled? Is it used? Its function, what does it do? And then we can also use some other ways to describe people. So we can describe their appearance. Are they pretty? Are they beautiful? Are they ugly, if you want to say that? How are they feeling? Are they scared? Are they nervous? And their personal qualities. So remember, we talked about personal qualities with Jackie Robinson, and Jackie Robinson was brave, he was hardworking, but there are other personal qualities that you can use to describe people, such as lazy, determined, nervous, creative, and many others. And then, of course, where do we actually place adjectives? We can place them before a noun, or we can place them after a noun and a verb. All right, now it's time for your exit ticket. So on your note catcher, you're going to write the nouns and the adjectives that describe those nouns for each sentence. So your first sentence is the homemade mask can go to the patients, staff, and visitors. The second sentence is hospitals, doctors, and nurses are desperate. And the third sentence is they needed protective equipment. And then for the second part of your exit ticket, you are going to write 2 sentences using at least 1 adjective. So make sure you write 2 sentences on your own using an adjective. And remember, for these sentences, there can be more than 1 noun, which means there can be more than 1 adjective. So remember when you're doing this part that there can be more than 1 noun. And of course, like always, when you are finished, take a picture of your note catcher and send them to the number listed here. So 901-214-5638. And of course, if you have any questions, send me a text message or call me, and I'll make sure I'll get back to you. Have a great night.